Ridiculous body searches are a fact of life for many people. In the general population, maybe it's only something you encounter at airports, part of the post 9/11 security theater where it's largely technological. And I said theater because while the efficacy is debatable, it is in part at least meant to make people feel safe. But at least once, something quite similar did work on me. I was flying out of LHE, that is Allama Iqbal International Airport in Lahore, Pakistan. There were no electronic body scanners, but instead, every single person had to line up by sex and have a fairly intense experience where the searchers really did get up in there to the point of borderline sexual activity, in my opinion. But throwing a lot of human labor at the problem over technology seemed smart to me as the Pakistani solution, since I am convinced nothing was getting on that plane that hadn't been really probed and prodded. Now, the Pakistani men that searched me did so with dispassion and professionalism, and so it felt fine, but one can understand what this experience could potentially feel like. Body searches and their invasiveness and sometimes cruelty have been a kind of theme in Chinese history in the past century or so. And we're looking here at a representation of that. The wood block is from 1943, but the actual piece was printed off in the recent past. These checkpoints and searches were a regular part of life, especially in Shanghai under Japanese occupation, moving in between zones of the city. And we'll zoom in here so you can see what's happening at the very front of this long queue. The humiliating aspect of this, personal as well as national, I think is probably obvious, and you see it a lot in Chinese cultural production about that time. A little less obviously, though, it took place in an even more widespread way in a class-based form throughout the first half of the 20th century. Workers were routinely searched leaving their factories. And I mentioned a while ago that probably prostitution or sex work was maybe the largest or second largest category of female employment in Shanghai at that time. Well, the competitor, depending upon how you count, was work in textiles. And there, this kind of process was very widespread. After clocking off, women couldn't go directly home, and we're shifting now back to the back of the line here. They had to wait to be processed out and go through these intense body searches. Because these were mostly textile factories, they were being searched for pilferage and basically little pieces of cotton. Nothing high value, in other words, maybe the size or quantity that you might sort of personally fashion into a menstrual product, but even that would be taken from you. I remind myself of all of this sometimes at the back of one of these long lines. It can always get worse.